Hey there BookTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the Sisterhood of the World tag, round 2. Sisterhood of the World tag is a tag that has been going around BookTube for a while now, but it's on its second iteration, which is why it's called Sisterhood of the World tag 2017 edition. But ironically, I wasn't tagged by a sister, I was tagged by Richardson from Richardson Reads, and he was tagged by Steve Donahue. No sisters in that chain, but these are all BookTube channels that I enjoy watching, and I was just so excited to be tagged. And I'm going to answer these questions and then tag some other BookTube channels because these questions are pretty cool and I'd like to pass it on. First question is, what was a required reading book from your elementary or high school that you thought you'd hate but that you ended up liking? I don't remember. Elementary school was a really long time ago, people. And high school, I don't have any of the books that I read in high school with me, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Lord of the Flies by William Golding is a book that's often assigned in elementary or high school classes. It wasn't a book that was assigned to me, but it was a book that I had at home in my parents' library when I was growing up, and I think I might have flipped through it a few times and just said, this is not a book that I'd be interested in. Number one, there is not a lot of conversation, especially in the first parts of the book. It's a lot of description, a lot of just describing this environment, and I thought it was a book that I would not like. I thought it was going to be slow and not interesting. But I finally read it sometime last year. Yeah, it took me that long, and I absolutely love the book. Number one, it's not a book for children. Yes, the characters are all teenagers or preteens, but the situation is really an allegory for what would happen in a lawless society, the reason that we have rules, and what society would be like without them. So this is a book that I thought I would hate. A book that's usually assigned to elementary school children or high school children that I thought I would hate when I was that age, but I ended up liking as an adult. Another book that I was actually assigned, but not as a child. I was assigned this book when I was in college. It's Out of Gas by David Goodstein, and I was assigned this book in one of my early engineering classes. It has to do with the idea that the world is running out of fossil fuels, and what will happen when we no longer have fossil fuels. How will we curb our dependency to prevent our society from getting to that point, but also what are some of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves for when that point actually comes. I'm not sure if I thought that I would hate this because I was new. This was, like I said, this was when I was just starting my engineering courses, and it was one of those books that I probably wouldn't have picked up on my own, but I saw it mentioned in a lecture, and then it was assigned to me in class, and I ended up reading it and love it. I don't know why I don't talk about this often, but maybe one day I'll share a little bit more from my engineering life. Question number 2 is, did your class do book presentations, and if so, did they interest you? This is one of those questions that kind of let you know that these tags are geared towards young booktubers. I don't remember doing book presentations when I was in high school. It has been a long time ago, but I know that if we did do book presentations in high school, there wouldn't have been things that I enjoyed, because even though I'm an avid reader, I didn't enjoy the structured reading that we did in high school. A lot of the books that were on our literature curriculum when I was in high school were books that my brother had used before me. I have a brother who's 4 years older, and those were books that were in my home. Some of them were books that I had already read for fun, but the literature class and the way it was structured in high school was not something that I really enjoyed. It wasn't like a book club kind of reading. It was more read just these 50 pages. Imagine yourself as this character and write this particular thing. And I've just always been a little bit more free with my reading. My reading style, my reading pattern didn't really gel with the structured reading that we did in high school, and I didn't enjoy literature. Question number 3 is, of the books that you've read so far this year, what have been your favorites and why? So far this year I've read 80 plus books. I don't remember all my favorites, but I will tell you 2 of my recent favorites. One was Harvest by Jim Crace, which I talked about in a previous video earlier this week. And I love this book because the author delved into religion and sociology and politics and anthropology, and did it in a very clever way, and I really loved the allegorical components of this story. Another favorite is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, which the author is a Zen Buddhist, and she incorporated Japanese culture and Buddhist philosophy and cultural appreciation and teenage angst and science. She delved into quantum mechanics and quantum physics and just overlaid all of that in a really beautifully told epistolary story. Another favorite, which I don't have, is Homegoing by Ya Gyasi. It's a multi-generational story about two sisters in Ghana, Africa, and they're separated in their home. One remains in Africa, and we follow her life and her generations there. And the other sister is taken into slavery, taken to the United States, and we're able to follow the progression of her generation, her lineage in the United States, and all the things that they face. And you're able to compare how these two branches of the same family go through life. Those are some of my favorite reads so far this year. Question number 4, do you prefer series or standalones? As a child, I read a lot of series. I love the Nancy Drew books, the Hardy Boys, the Bobbsey Twins, Sweet Valley Twins, Sweet Valley High, some Babysitter Clubs. That was when I was a child. As an adult, I most often read standalones. I used to read like the Shopaholic series, but one day I just stopped. And I don't even know what Becky Bloomwood is doing these days. And I don't care that much. Every so often there'll be a book that I really enjoyed and the author will release a sequel to that book. And almost as often, I don't like the sequel as much as I like the original work. Case in point, Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. Last year, I was introduced to Jojo Moyes' writings with this book. I didn't love everything about it, but I loved this book so much that I went on and read 6 other of Jojo Moyes' books. One of those books was the sequel to this book called After You, which, while this was a clear 4-star read for me, After You was closer to a 3 and maybe even a little lower than a 3, like I rounded it up to a 3-star. And if she had written another book, which I heard that there might have been another book in that series, I wouldn't read it because I just didn't care as much about the characters after that story had been told. It's a story that you could tell was written to be encompassed in this book. Don't drag it out. Don't give me more. Like, leave me thinking how these characters' lives go on. So I enjoyed this as a standalone. As a series, not so much. Another was The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. I absolutely love this book. As a matter of fact, this book is the reason I started BookTube. If you go back and click my oldest BookTube video, a review of this book is my absolute first video on BookTube. When The Rosie Effect came out, I also read it, but this was a 5-star read. The Rosie Effect was somewhere like a 3. I like being introduced to new characters. I like hearing their stories, and then I like to say goodbye to them and imagine how they have moved on with their lives. I don't really want to keep up these relationships with these characters for too long. Some of them are just too terrible for that. Question number 5, do you prefer character-driven or plot-driven books? Well, can I have both? I like a good plot. I like a good storyline. I'm a writer myself. I'm focused on the plot, focused on where the story can go. But in general, I think the reason that I read a book is because of the characters, the way the author is able to create these characters in my mind and to push me to get invested in this character's story. It's not so much the story itself. It's about how the character deals with the situations that he or she is facing, but also how they change their environment to match what they want out of life. So character-driven books are probably my favorite things to read, and now I will enjoy a book where there's not so much dialogue, there's not so much fast-paced action, but I get invested in a character's story. So if I had to choose, character-driven, but I really enjoy a book that has both. Question number 6, what is your favorite place to read? In bed, under my sheets with the AC blowing, even if it's cold outside. I like a nice chilly environment, a candle burning. I'm in my bed, maybe a nice cup of something to drink, and yeah, in bed. I mean, occasionally I go to the park and read, occasionally I go to the Starbucks to read, but if I go to Starbucks, I'm more likely to write. I'm more likely to bring my computer, and I'll bring a book, but it's usually for inspiration. And once I've read something, then I kind of want to write something about it, or write something in response to it, or write something that I have thought because of something that I read in the book. So yeah, my other spaces, I feel like, encourage me to do other things, but when I'm in my bed, I'm reading or I'm sleeping. Question number 7, what are the last 5 BookTube videos that you have watched? The last 5 BookTube videos that I have watched was an August reading recap from Comfy Cozy Up, a review of Small Great Things by Brown Girl Dreaming, a bookshelf tour from Richards to Reads, a discussion video from Steve Donahue, and a Build Your Own Recommendations by Matthew Shirapa. And I'll put a link to all of these videos down below so you can see what I've been watching lately. Question number 8, list the last 5 non-BookTube videos that you've watched on YouTube. I just binge watched a ton of journaling videos by James Burke and Jordan Clark, and a couple of natural hair videos. So I'll put a link to those videos down below as well. Question number 9 is, if you could live in a fictional world with any fictional character, who would it be, where would it be, and when? Who, where, when? Okay, so who would it be? Nobody. I can't think of a fictional character whose life is so great that I would exchange my life for theirs, like exchange my setting to theirs. I mean, come on, I live in New York City. Everything that I could possibly want or need is in New York City except for my family. The only reason that I have urges to live any other place is because my family doesn't live here with me. So no. Fictional characters, you could keep your fictional world. I mean, come on, we live in a time and place where if you want to see how someone is living in any real place in the world, you could watch a YouTube live feed of someone who is living in that place. You could watch videos, vlogs of a person who lives in that place and get to experience it yourself. And dystopian and fantasy worlds have no appeal to me because a lot of those characters are two-dimensional characters. I absolutely love my three-dimensional world. I love even the things that don't go right. I wouldn't live in a fictional world. Most of these fictional places are kind of terrible, so no, I wouldn't want to live in any world, in any time period with any fictional character. I actually like my cell phone and indoor plumbing and freedom. So I think I'll stay here. The last thing to do is to tag some people, and I'm gonna tag Derby from Derby Lane Reading. She's doing the challenge to vlog every day in September, and so here's a tag, Derby. If you need an idea for a video, something that you were planning didn't go through, why don't you do this tag? I'm also going to tag Krista from Krista's Books and Jams because she moved recently and she hasn't been posting videos and I miss her. So Krista, this is your invitation to come on back to BookTube. I'm also going to tag Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. I might have said Brown Girl Dreaming before. I always confuse those two monikers. Brown Girl Dreaming is the title of Jacqueline Woodson's memoir in poetry style. Brown Girl Reading is Dee Dee, aka Frenchie, from BookTube. But I don't know. So I always say one when I mean the other. Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. I'm going to tag her to do this video as well because when I think about a sister, a real sister here on BookTube, Dee Dee comes to mind. So those 3 ladies I'm going to tag because it is the Sisterhood of the World tag after all. Even though it's tagged by men, I'm going to pass it on to some ladies. So thanks for watching this video. Please leave me a comment down below if I said something today that resonated with you or you want to chat about it. If I mentioned a book that you love and maybe you want to change my mind about something I said about that book, go ahead and tell me about it in the comments as well. So thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll talk later. So until next time, happy reading. Bye.